Hi, thank you for tuning in. Welcome to the It's Your Money and It's Your Estate workshop series brought to you by our nonprofit organization, Financial and Estate Literacy. Our mission is to empower people like you to take control of their finances, their estate, and charitable giving decisions. For the past 25 years, our founder, Peter Kote, and our entire team have been providing these free, unbiased, and accessible 6 weeks programs all over Orange County, California to help you make informed choices that align with your unique needs and values. This webinar is the second session of the It's Your Money program. The topic for today is Financial Planning Part 1. Our guest speaker is Thomas Anderson, our moderator, Peter Kote, and this webinar is brought to you by Mary's Path. Enjoy the workshop.
Thomas, you're going to be our presenter. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Yes. Why don't we start off first, right off the bat, and get into your Ask First form.
Sure, let's do it.
And dun, 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 dun. I scroll down, scroll up a little bit so we'll get this. I guess we were planning on using this first. Could you make that screen a little bit larger?
Yeah.
Many of you don't know exactly why we use the Ask First form. And if you download a blank copy, you'll receive, it'll have this on the first page. And why use the Ask First form? Because you're entitled to the information. You need to know who you're talking to as far as a professional is concerned. You really need to understand whether or not the person is a fiduciary and puts your interest first. And also you kind of know whether or not they have hidden financial motives. You know, it's kind of follow the money. So let's go scroll up.
Yeah.
And get to know you a little bit, Tomas. Bachelor's degree. Where do you have your bachelor's degree from?
Yeah, so I went to Long Beach State and did not go actually for anything finance related. Went for mechanical engineering. So that was my first career. And so I'm a career changer into the financial planning world.
Yeah, there is. And why is engineering just a great background if you're going to be a financial planner?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's valuable because typically engineers are analytically minded. And so there's a lot of, numbers associated with financial planning. So a lot of the modeling and analysis, you need to have a strong grasp on numbers. So that definitely helps me out. And I came from a consulting engineering background too. So yeah.
That helps. You're getting your, I understand you're getting your CFP designation.
Yes. So that's the second here is the credentials. So I don't have my CFP now. I'm working currently for a firm, Have a Plan Financial. The founder is Lori Dubchansky. She's done some of the presentations on the It's Your Money before. But yeah, I'm working to get my CFP. I've passed the exam. And now I'm just trying to get the experience, which the CFP requires 3 years of experience before you can use the credentials.
Yeah. So you work closely with Lori, who has, I think, over 10 years experience in financial planning. So you work with her arm in arm and on matters. I noticed that you don't have any licenses. Why is that?
Well, so I'm not registered as an attorney. I don't have a background in law. So I don't have any securities licenses because we don't sell any type of products.
That's the thing that I want people to understand. Because you don't sell any products, you don't have any licenses. You don't need them.
Right.
Not having a license is a positive.
Exactly. Yeah. So
yeah, if Tomas had an insurance license, the A and B antenna goes up, because He's going to sell you something. So not having a license is a real positive. Fiduciary, you put your interest first. How does the firm charge a client? How do you get paid? You get paid on a salary, but how does the firm have a plan, charge a potential client?
Yeah, like you said, I personally get paid on a salary, and have a plan. We charge in two ways. So fee only, which means we are charging a fee for a service. We aren't charging a fee for a product. We're charging a fee based on the time. So we charge hourly.
What's your hourly rate?
We charge $300 an hour.
$300 an hour. And if somebody wants to have you manage the assets, what do you charge there?
Yeah, and so that's the other part. We do investment management, and we charge a 0.5% for investment management.
So do you have a minimum?
We do not, and that is something that is extremely important to Lori. Her background, she worked at a financial planning firm before starting her own, and the previous firm she worked with had a large asset minimum, and it turned a lot of people away from being able to get financial help. And so she's all about getting financial help for everyone, which is why she named the firm Have a Plan.
Yeah. So when in a typical situation at $300 an hour for someone to put a plan together, what's the approximate cost?
Yeah, so usually it takes about like 6 to 10 hours.
6 to 10
on the
hours.
low end, it's usually like 1,800, and on the higher end, it's 3,000. But the reason we do hourly is because it's based on complexity. So if you're a business owner and you have a lot of complexity regarding your business, it's going to take more hours to do your financial plan versus if you have a very simple, retirement plan with a pension. It could be very, simple for us to like review everything and do a comprehensive review. So that'd be less hours.
Yeah. People have this mistaken idea that to be a good financial planner, you have to you spend most of your time on the investment area, and literally you spend most of your time on the plan area.
Yeah, that's a great point. On the investment side, I mean, our philosophy is, using index funds, and we have models for our investments. So investments is one aspect, and it's still something we focus on, but we cover all the other areas like insurance, estate, tax, retirement planning, cash flow planning.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that a little bit. Want to scroll down a little bit?
Yep.
By the way, the average fee for a fee-only advisor in the community is approximately 1%. So I just want to go back and say, Thomas and Lori, they really believe in trying to help as many people as possible, and it's quality planning. Just because their prices are lower does not mean you're getting a lower service. And 0.5% for asset management is probably one of the lowest in the industry. So I'm going to give you guys a plug there.
Yeah.
This is also important, and it says financial products. You're not affiliated with anyone who sells stuff, I'm assuming.
Yep, you're exactly right. So we don't sell any annuities. We don't sell any insurance products. When we do a comprehensive financial plan for someone, though, they may need a product like that. And so we can refer out to other people who do sell products like that, but we don't even get a kickback from those referrals, and we don't sell those products directly ourselves.
Yeah, that's the way it should be. But rarely does that happen. Let's get into the program. And because this is probably one of the most important sessions of the 6.
All right. I didn't know I had such an important one.
Yeah, you do. Because you can't figure out what you're going to invest in unless you do the crunching of the numbers.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So, and this is the part that brokers skip. because they go right into the investment area.
Right.
And this is the part that's important. So let's get into the program. Who is a financial planner?
Yeah. So this is just an outline of what we're going to talk about today. But yeah, who's a financial planner? Why do you need a financial plan? And then what is financial planning? And so we'll cover all that today. So this is a 101 on financial planning. So we're not going to get, super in the weeds on these topics, just give you a very high level. So
Yeah, you can call yourself anything you want.
yeah, this is an important slide. Because all of these names here, the planner, advisor, consultant, wealth manager, investment advisor, they're all interchangeable and people can use these titles in any way they see fit.
Yeah.
People with no necessarily experience or education can be using these titles. There's no governing body that says financial planner is a protected name and you're not allowed to use that name because we've regulated it in the same way that like a doctor, not everyone can just walk around calling themselves a doctor. But in the financial world, people can walk around and call themselves a financial advisor and yet not actually have any background in financial,
Yeah. Well, Edward Jones, the big brokerage firm out of, I think it's St. Louis, didn't want anyone to have a background in financial planning at one time. They've changed a little bit because they wanted them to train them to give the company line. And they were looking for people who could communicate with individuals much more so than actually number crunching.
Right.
And to me, it's all about crunching those numbers. Let's go to the next slide.
All right. So this is about where do these, people work? Where do financial advisors work? Listed at the top there, the independent registered investment advisor.
And that is that yours? Like have a plan? That's what you are, right?
Yep. We are what's called an RIA,
Yeah.
registered investment advisor. And that entity and what we are is we provide a fiduciary duty. And a fiduciary duty means we are always acting in the best interest of our clients. And that's like the most important thing, designation between all these different other places where, financial advisors work. And
So
we're not,
an independent broker dealer, give us an example of that.
so an independent broker dealer, so there's some smaller ones and there's some larger ones. So you'll see Wirehouse broker dealer on there too.
Yeah.
Independent could be something small like LPL Financial. They're someone who they work for an entity, although they run their own business, and so they're selling products from that entity.
And then the Wirehouse broker dealer is like a Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley.
Exactly, like Wells Fargo, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, so much bigger broker dealer. And so those are ones where they're creating these financial products in-house, and advisors are then using those products when they're giving recommendations to their clients.
So, I go now into a Bank of America and I see Merrill Lynch there. Is Merrill Lynch an independent fee-only financial advisor?
No, they're not an independent fee-only advisor. That'd be a broker dealer. And so what you're sitting across from is someone who is representing a company, and they are only subject, we're going to get into in a little bit later, but to a suitability standard where they're only needing to provide recommendations to you based on what's suitable, which may not be a product that's in your best interest.
Yeah. Then, of course, you have an insurance company, and now insurance company are also getting licensed as a broker dealer as well.
Yeah. So there's some, duly registered, and we'll get into that in the next slide, some of the fee breakdowns. But yeah, insurance companies, those who are selling annuities, life insurance products, they'll talk about financial planning. But really, the important thing there is it's more of a transactional relationship because their relationship is driven by the product they sell.
Yeah.
So if they're selling
a
whole life product or another insurance product, it's a one-time transactional thing with maybe some financial planning.
Yeah. Trust companies now want to be broker dealers. Trust companies do have a fiduciary duty to help individuals out. Wells Fargo Trust Company, First American, Northern Trust, and they do offer financial planning within their program.
Right. Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay. So this is one of the most important slides. Like Peter was saying earlier, it's all about following the money. So these are the methods that a financial planner gets paid. So at the top, the most historical way a financial planner has been paid, which is we've been transitioning away from this more and more, is commission. So selling an actual product and getting a commission kickback from selling that product. An example of that could be investment recommendation that has that give a kickback to the advisor who made that investment recommendation.
Mutual funds have a commission, annuities have a commission, partnerships have a commission. So the industry is probably still 50% or more run on commission basis.
Right. And so that's on this whole topic. I think Lori puts it really well. She asks that people just, when you sit down with an advisor, you just ask them, how do you get paid? And then you just stop talking and you listen to what they say. And if it's a really long answer, it's probably not a great answer.
That is really a great idea, because it's so simple in the fee only world, is you pay me.
Right.
It's the only way I get paid. What does fee-based mean?
So fee-based would be a blend. So that means somebody who's working both as a fee only, and so that could be any one of those other models down below, and is on top of that doing commission. So this could be someone who has like an asset under management firm, but also then sells some insurance products.
Yeah. Please stay away from fee-based because they can charge you both a commission and a fee. So and you don't know when they're operating on a fee-only basis and when they're operating on their commission hat basis. But it sounds a lot better than being on commission.
Right.
Fee only based on assets under management.
Right. So that was something when we were talking in the Ask First form. So we charge 0.5%. So it's typically a percentage of the assets that that investment advisor custodies. So
when you do a AUM, assets under management, an abbreviation is AUM, is the financial plan an additional charge, or is that included in the assets under management model?
So sometimes they're wrapped together and sometimes they're separate.
Okay.
With us, it's separated. So we have an asset under management fee, and then we charge a planning fee.
Okay. And I forgot to ask you, does the firm offer a free look-see or a free consultation at any time with anyone?
Yeah, we have it on our website where anyone can schedule a 30-minute call to get to know us and us to get to know them.
Okay.
And then we can even do, a deeper dive after that where we can do a discovery call where we can get to know them a lot more and they can also understand how we do things.
Okay. So it doesn't cost to do a consultation to find out who you are, and you find out who they are. Right.
Totally free consultation just to get to know us.
So what is a fee-only retainer model?
Yeah, so that would be where the advisor is getting paid just on a fee itself. So from, someone's income or cash flows, paid from a checking account, and you're being paid on an annual basis. So similar to the way that you would pay, like a lawyer, where you're paying them a certain amount per year and you're just, able to work with them whenever you want for financial planning.
Yeah. It's really, you mentioned that this is one of the more important slides, and it really is, because there's so many conflicts of interest. when you're talking about money. And where your money comes from, that's where you're going to be loyal to. So if you're working for an insurance company and the insurance company pays you, then you're going to be loyal to the insurance company. And so follow the money. It's really, really, really important. And if they only get paid by you, then they want to work and do what's best for you because they want to keep you as a client. Speaking of that, so how do we fire you, Thomas? You looked like a nice guy in the beginning, but I just don't like the way your personality is, and I want to get rid of you. What do we do to get rid of you?
Yeah. So, we're under those two models. So let's say you're working with us asset under management and hourly. So our hourly engagement is, we're working when, you need help with your financial plan. So if we've done like a whole plan together and you no longer have any interest in working with us, then we can just terminate the contract and there's no issue. You can walk away from it. You're not getting charged a fee, like a surrender fee or something for leaving us. Same thing with asset under management. All we are is
Who do you custody your assets through?
we custody through Charles Schwab.
Okay. And then you have the right under that Schwab model to get paid, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So
and you have the right to make changes within the client's portfolio.
Right. So we're like a limited power of attorney just to make trades on a client's assets. So that's a really important point because Schwab acts as this, intermediary, this third party between us
completely independent of you.
Completely independent of us. So, when a client comes to us with assets that they want us to manage, Schwab is the one physically actually holding the assets. All we are really allowed to do is to make trades because of this limited power of attorney. We can't make distributions to ourselves aside from the distribution for a fee. And that, in our case, is paid quarterly.
In fact, if we wanted to fire half a plan and Thomas and Lori, then all we have to do is call Schwab up and say, Schwab, please eliminate, have a plan. I want to just manage the money myself. And then Thomas or Lori would come into the office the next day, open up their computer, and you would be gone. You don't even have to talk to them.
We would like if you talk to us.
Yeah, they would. But the point I'm trying to make is that what you want to know before you engage a financial advisor is what is the exit plan? And that's the same thing for investments. Thomas mentioned surrender charges. Well, annuities, when you purchase an annuity and you want to get out of that annuity, they add on a surrender charge. So you want to know the exit before you enter into the relationship. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay, so this is how do you select a financial planner? And first is the credentials. So like we were just mentioning at the beginning, anyone can use the name financial advisor, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have any credentials that come from experience or education. So I'm going to be more biased to the
CFP
because that's what I'm pursuing.
Yeah. But by the way, most individuals should have this. This is a beginning model for, to be in the financial services industry. If I went to work for Merrill Lynch, all they're going to ask me is that, can I communicate with a client and be 18 years old?
Right. Right. And so what the CFP also does is, it does a few things. It's creating an education standard. So there's coursework that each CFP has to have, completed in order to get the marks. It creates an experience requirement. So just right out of the gate, I can't be advising clients under the CFP. I'm learning under Lori as a mentee. And so that's important. And then the third thing would be it's the CFP itself as a credential binds people to a fiduciary standard as well to have people, look out for clients in their best interest.
Yeah, there are some brokers out there that don't want their staff to become a CFP because it means that they might be subject to more liability, the higher
Right.
standard, you know? What is a chartered financial consultant?
Yeah, at CHFC, that's another designation similar to a CFP. It has, its own um, body that you get the CHFC under that requires its own education requirements.
Yeah, it's more or less from the insurance industry.
Yeah,
Then you got the CPA, the accounting industry does, they have their designation called the PFS, right?
right. So that is very similar. So after you've been a CPA for a while, then you can go apply for PFS if you've done, a certain amount of years working in personal financial planning.
Yeah. My wife was as a CPA, and I asked her one time, I said, why aren't you giving financial advice to some of your clients? And she goes, I'm an accountant. I account for things. I don't have a PFS. I'm not familiar with financial planning. And so I'm not qualified. So if you find a CPA, make sure you ask before you ask financial questions. Do you have a knowledge of the financial services industry? A PFS indicates as such. And now we have a chartered financial analyst. What is that?
Yeah, the CFA is very investment focused. And so their experience and education requirements are geared way more on the investment side. Um, so this could be someone who's, a very specialized investment manager, is, someone who's pursuing the CFA designation.
Usually CFAs are employed by mutual funds, by banks, trust companies, and the like.
Yeah.
I like to describe the CFP as going an inch deep but a mile wide, and then the CFA going a mile deep and an inch wide.
Yeah.
They're very focused in on just the investment part.
Yeah.
How many designations are there in the financial services industry, you think?
Oh man, a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're highlighting 4 here. But yeah, there are a lot of different designations, even if you get your CP.
Over 120 and
Yeah.
more every day. In fact, they now have on the FINRA website, which is we'll explain FINRA later on, but they actually define what each designation means. And the bottom line is that people who see designations behind someone's name think they're more knowledgeable. And that is true in many other fields, but in the financial services industry, it's the opposite. You can buy these designations. So these are the ones that have credibility.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's not the only one. Talk about experience, rapport, suitability, and independent custodian. Suitability and fiduciary, we kind of talked about, but experience of rapport, why are those things important?
Yeah, experience is extremely important. Just, working with someone like in the case of Lori, she's had, 10 years of experience and she's had a lifetime with, financial situations of her own too. You're working with someone who then understands how to approach your situation because they've seen it before. It's not someone who's seeing a situation for the first time. So experience is very important, and that's something that you can easily find from someone's ADV, which is a registration document that should be on their website, or from Broker Check, where you can look up how long a person's been registered.
Yeah, but I think even rapport and trust is even more important.
Yeah, I think I would totally agree. So rapport and trust. One of the first things when you're hiring a financial planner is, do you want to work with them? If you don't want to even work with them, like if you dread meeting with them, like if If you ever
Yeah.
work with me and you're like, I just don't even want to sit down with Thomas, like he's just
Yeah.
frustrating, then it's just not even worth
I
pursuing that.
think the two hardest things for people to discuss is their money and death.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I mean, it's an extremely sensitive topic.
Number one reason for divorces is money. Families break up because of money. In my family, when we get together, we absolutely do not talk about money. What each other makes, and yet, in order to put a financial plan together, you got to talk to them about, what your net worth is, what your cash flow is. You got to really talk about your money situation.
Yep, and I'm a huge proponent of financial transparency, but the only way you get to financial transparency is if you build trust with that person. And so, yeah, if you have a relationship with a financial planner where you don't have that trust built, then that's not even a relationship worth pursuing and continuing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. It's one of the most important.
Yeah. And and so you want to spend the time, if you're going to do it through an advisor, you want to spend the time up front using the ask first form to get to know and interview, at least 3 financial advisors to see the comfort level. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
There's a lot here.
Yeah, so this is a lot of content, and we don't necessarily need to go into all of this. But the most important thing here is, like people ask why do I even need a financial plan? And Forbes did a 10 reasons why, and it's, not just for the 1% of the wealthy in the world. It's essentially about forming goals and then finding a way to align your current financial situation with your future goals and finding a way to bridge that gap. That's where financial planning is most important. So yeah, the 10 things listed here come for
your engineering background comes in here. What are you trying to build, and what kind of time? And so people need to put down on a paper what their financial goals are. The number one fear from people is running out of money or having, before they die, or and people don't crunch numbers.
Yep. And I think the question I think we answer most in financial planning is, am I going to be okay? That's like the top, first question that people are always asking, like, based on my current situation and based on these things that I want, am I going to be okay? Is my retirement going to be okay? Am I going to have enough funding for my children's college education? That's really the question that we're answering.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
it's
yeah,
a number crunching exercise.
Yep. Yep. And it's about goal formation.
Yeah.
A lot of people haven't sat down to think about what they truly want. And that's what financial planning also can do, is help, put together smart goals, like, and create actual goals. So
Yeah. You want at least 3 to 5 good goals that are realistic, that are attainable. There used to be a little acronym using the term SMART, but I can't remember what it stood for. But you really have to have them realistic. You know, People do not like to talk about their spending because the word budget comes into mind. Do you put people on a budget?
we like to use the word spending plan just because budget is so yeah, it kind of grinds people's gears. But I think a spending plan is still important, even if it's not, a strict, hey, you have, $100 this week to spend on groceries, you have $50 on this. We're still looking at least overall holistically and saying, here's what's a reasonable amount to spend. And if it deviates a lot from what you're currently doing, then maybe we need to get into it and understand why, you're not able to live on, let's say $5,000-6,000 a month. Why aren't you able to live on that? is there something you're overspending on? So yeah, that's typically our process around spending.
Well, but if you're 70 plus and you've saved your entire life, and now all of a sudden, you're not working and you're just spending, do you encourage people to spend more than they're actually spending before they see you?
Yeah, it's a great point because people have typically then, yeah, dug into their savings habits and are not comfortable letting go of, their account that they've grown up over all those years and using it to fund their lifestyle. And a lot of what we do is we, in retirement planning, we look at a person's resources and we project how they could use those resources, to fund the rest of their retirement. And oftentimes, like you're saying, there's a gap where people are underspending and plans are, being shown to be extremely, extremely successful and over successful, where there's no chance that you're ever going to run out of money and you're not doing some of the things that you'd actually like to be doing, like travel or start gifting or start being charitable.
Yeah. Because the more money you have, to many people, the more security you have. And can you ever have too much security?
Yeah,
You know?
and for some people that security is important and we can help figure out, what's that level? Like what's the right amount to have that will just, give you that peace of mind to let you sleep at night, but still then encourage, to like you're allowed to spend a little bit more than you are right now.
Yeah. One of our missions in the financial and estate literacy is to avoid scams and financial elder abuse. And so, you know, if you hear of something that's literally a little bit too good to be true, who can you call to help you? And we think the fee only community is that person to call and say, hey, I just got approached by blah, blah, blah. And what do you think? And just by being able to speak to someone will help you figure out whether or not it's a scam. Scamming is the number one crime here in Orange County. And because there's a lot of money here and people don't are embarrassed when they get scammed. But these guys are good. I mean, I don't care how intelligent you are, you're not being above being scammed. And a fee only advisor is one of the things. If you have money and you need an answer to a question, please use them to kind of bounce the idea of.
Yeah, I mean, to add on to that too, within our firm, for anyone over the age of 65, we do a trusted contact form, which is, we want to know someone within your own life that we could contact if we ever flag something as, you're giving money away to some unknown person, you're wiring money internationally. Why are these things like, why are you wanting to do these things? Why are these things being requested?
Yeah.
And
My father-in-law was a retired dentist, and he got a call from someone saying that he was a nephew in San Diego in jail and needed $1,000 to post bond. And he went to the bank to get $1,000. And luckily, his niece was there, and she said, "What do you need $1,000 for?" And he explained it, and she said, "You don't have a nephew in San Diego." So we need to have outside individuals that can help us with these kinds of situations.
that's
Um,
sometimes
how
where
about what do you think about identifying risks? What does that mean?
yeah, so risks can pop up in many different ways. Maybe one that people think of most is investment risk and the risk that you lose a portion of your portfolio because of a stock market downturn. And so that is one risk that we help identify within a retirement plan. Some
Do
other
you
risks.
do you help people with their homeowners insurance and automobile insurance?
Yeah, so that's some of the other risks that we also cover is liability. Like, do you have enough liability protection on your homeowner's policy, on your auto policy? Do you have a need for an umbrella insurance, which is an insurance that sits above your home and auto to protect you from, greater catastrophes? So yeah, that's also something that we do. We review people's insurance policies, um, as part of our comprehensive financial plan.
But the biggest risk is capital preservation, not to drain somebody's account, to make sure that they have enough money to meet what they're spending.
Yep. And
for
so
the rest of their life.
Yeah, we look at investments in two ways and then we marry them together. One is a person's risk tolerance. So this is someone's personal preferences around investments, and this could be due to, experience level, confidence. So we do an assessment of a person's risk tolerance. And then what we also do is we look at their risk capacity in a financial planning software to see, what level of risk is appropriate for being able to meet your goals, typically retirement goal.
If anybody has any grandchildren, look at number 9. They really do help build wealth. And the thing of it is being a parent and a grandfather. Ooh, I hate saying that. You're the parent, so you don't have that much influence over how they spend money. They watch what you do, but I have recommended more parents send their kids to someone like Thomas, and they help them build their wealth. And they're an outside professional, and you're not getting into their money, but it's one of the gifts that you can give one of your kids or your grandchildren, the gift of a fee-only financial advisor.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then, I think financial education is one of the most important things. And that's what a fee-only planner from an early age can help instill into those, children's.
And when you're young, it doesn't require that many hours. Exactly. It's not that expensive.
The situation's not complex.
No.
Typically, for someone who's younger, you're dealing with like student loans. So it's a lot of debt management. It's like cash flow planning. You need to figure out a spending plan because you're new to having this paycheck, but now you need to, juggle rent and all these.
Yeah. And the number 10 is really important too. It allows you to live more comfortably because you have somebody to assure you that your money is going to be there for the rest of your life. That reduces stress. And you reduce stress means you're going to live longer and more comfortably. And you may even make gifts to your kids, to your grandchildren, to charities, but you can't do that unless you're comfortable.
Right. Yeah, I liken it to, it's like hiring a good trail guide, where if you went out, you just, hiked on a trail, let's say, trying to think of a good one.
Well, I'm starting to do some travel, and your perfect example is the trail guide. I now look for a personal guide when I get into a new city or a new area that I don't know anything about.
Yeah, because it could be overwhelming without it.
Yeah.
And so just the fact that you have the guide gives you that comfort to be able to then explore and do the things you want to do.
Yeah. Hey, great discussion, Thomas. Let's go to the next slide.
So this is about, what is covered in financial planning. And so we're kind of talking about in that last slide, but we're balancing the needs of today with the future. And the way we're doing that is we're going through a process, which we'll cover a little bit later in this presentation. But some of the topics that we, talk about when we first get to know someone is, what are the goals that they have? What are the things that they're planning for? And then we have some of our assumptions that we use in a financial plan. So like things like,
Inflation number.
yeah, inflation and, an expected return for stocks and bonds. So we have some assumptions that we're using in a financial planning software. Some of the other topics, cash flow and budgeting. This is honestly one of the most important topics because, spending is one of the biggest drivers of the success of a financial plan. And oftentimes we need to, do a deep dive on cash flows for somebody.
Yeah. If it's hard to turn a saver into a spender, and it's hard to, I think it's almost impossible to change a spender into a saver, but at least you got to understand where you are.
Yeah. And with some spenders, maybe, they need some assistance with some nudges and some, things like, automatic savings, like 401k automatic savings or automatic savings into a savings account. So there are tools and ways that we can, try and get those spenders to save a little bit more.
Yeah. I very rarely hear a broker talk about cash flow and budgeting to a client. It's all about investment planning.
And truly, it's because it's not aligned with how they're paid.
No.
The way they're paid is to talk about investments because it's about generating more transactions, selling product. So because the relationship with a broker is transactional, it means the topics are going to be transactional too. They don't care about cash flow because it has no impact on how they're paid.
Yeah. And risk management and insurance is such an important area. But people, it's hard to understand an insurance contract or what kind of insurance do you need? And, you need somebody such as yourself to review these things.
Yeah. And we do it comprehensively. So I think one thing, as we're talking through each of these topics, you'll kind of notice that a lot of them overlap. And I think a good like foundational goal that people have oftentimes is home ownership. And so you can see how home ownership would be a goal. It would affect your cash flows. There's insurance because you need homeowners insurance, possibly umbrella insurance. It would affect tax planning if you were, ever going to sell that home someday. Some of the deductions related to the home. It would relate to estate planning. How are you titling that home? So you can see how like one goal then branches off and hits all these other topics. So that's why comprehensive financial planning is so important, is we're not just narrowed in on investments. We're looking at that whole spectrum. We're, a mile wide, like Peter was.
And look at the tax situation. You can spend capital gains or you could spend ordinary income, and you want to have capital gain income. And most people don't understand their tax bracket. So, you got to have your CPA is very important to be involved in this. Is that right, Thomas?
Yeah. So we aren't tax professionals, so we're not filing taxes for people. But people often mistake tax planning as, oh, I have a CPA, I don't need tax planning. And the thing is a CPA is often looking backwards for taxes, and they're helping you, file taxes or, just, organize your taxes from a previous year. But tax planning is important where you're looking forward and saying, okay, here are a lot of different, taxable accounts that I have. Where should I be taking tax from? How should I be, navigating in the future? And we do analysis, for tax planning, which then you can give to your CPA and have a CPA look it over and say, hey,
what assets should be in your IRA account? What assets should be on your investable account? You have a stock for 20 years. Most people don't understand what cost basis is, and and market value, and figure out later on, just in how important it is before you sell an asset to understand the tax implications.
Right, totally. Yeah, I mean, we'll get people who sell a home and then say, now what? Where instead it's sometimes better, not sometimes, it's oftentimes better that they, come to us first and say, I'm planning to sell this asset. What do you think? And
Yeah.
we can help do a projection.
Or how to have title to a home, and one of your spouse partners dies, and what does the step up in basis mean, and help the individual who is the surviving spouse, I mean, travel through all the things that you have to do upon the first death, and how to invest, and especially if the spouse who died was the one that's kind of managing the money.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, those are all important things. So the estate planning piece, again, similar to tax planning, we're not lawyers, so we're not drafting documents for people, but we are reviewing them. And we want to know who your beneficiaries are, who your intended people that you want to leave money to are. We want to know that, your assets are titled appropriately. Do you have accounts that, even though you have a trust, you haven't changed the title on these accounts to the name of the trusts? So
What happens if you suffer from some sort of incapacity? Who's going to step in and make those decisions?
exactly.
I mean, there's a lot going on. And if you have children, I mean, they may have special needs. They be married not to an in-law, but to an outlaw, or mentally disabled, or they have a drug problem, or, it's, we're not Ozzie and Harriet type families. That was way before your time, Thomas. But and Father Knows Best was a program. It's no longer that way, and family situations are messy. Then with second marriages and third marriages, and uh, you need somebody to manage the money situation and that you can trust and talk to about managing your assets.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I think one important thing is we've been on this slide for, a few minutes, and we're just now starting to talk about investment planning, which just kind of shows it's not all about investments. Like financial
Yeah.
planning truly is about, anything related to money. Are you going to buy a car? It's what's the best way to buy that car?
Oh
So
yeah,
as small
yeah,
as that, but
yeah. Leasing or buying, and that takes a little number crunching.
yeah.
It's
So it's
leasing is
yeah, it's learning all these different types of you know, sub
alternatives, making the best decision for you
yeah.
yourself, not for the broker. Um, when we're talking about investment planning, let's talk a little bit about your firm. Are you an active manager, or are you what's called a passive manager?
No, we're passive, and I mean I think it's important to distinguish what those two things mean. So active is typically associated with, a type of investment firm that is trying to make active decisions regarding their investments, like either they think there's individual companies that are going to perform well in the future. They think they have a forecast for the overall market. So they're timing between asset classes. So they're switching away from stocks and going to bonds or something like that. So it's usually associated with timing is what I think of it as, is people are trying to time different aspects of the market. And we are the opposite of that. We are passive, and we're not trying to time.
Yeah, it's a terminology that you need to be aware of. We're going to have an entire hour and a half session on equity and fixed income investing. Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, so here's a good moment to just, pause and ask yourself some of these questions to, assess whether or not, you need a financial plan now, or your financial plan is adequate. So questions like, how much am I going to need in the future? I think retirement is like one of the biggest topics out there in financial planning that people, need to plan for. It's a complex topic because it's, involves so many things. when should I retire? Where should I take assets from?
Just when should you take Social Security?
Yeah, when should you take Social Security is a complicated topic. Um, and
Yeah, if you've been married once or twice, do you take your own or do you take one of your previous husband's Social Security? It's just Medicare funding. I mean,
yeah, yeah, and on the Social Security topic, I think there it's over 5,000 different nuanced rules related to Social Security.
yeah, it's
So
not
we
easy,
use software for that because it's nearly impossible to keep track of all those different rules. So
Yeah, Eugene just reminded us that we got 19 slides and we're only on number 9, so we'll have to move it up a little bit.
okay.
But investments, diversification is another term that we're going to use throughout the program. Why is that important?
Yeah, I mean we preach diversification at our firm because we don't want people overly concentrated in one, you know, area of investing. So whether it be like one individual company, there's plenty of historical examples to use. Like Enron is a big one, but someone being fully invested in Enron while also working at Enron ended up being in a disastrous situation for that person on retirement because the company completely went under. So they had their retirement funds wiped while they also lost their job. So that's like at the full extreme example, but that's really what we're preaching is to get people away from investing in,
Yeah.
you know,
Safety means diversification.
yeah.
So, a financial advisor can quickly look at your portfolio, and if it's not diversified, they'll tell you that you're taking too big a risk. Proper insurance, we talked a little bit about that. Assets going efficiently to your heirs, we talk about you doing and reviewing their estate planning documents. What legacy do you want to leave? We talk a little bit about that in the sense that what is important, what values do you have? If it's, kids, you may want to leave some monies to some charitable organizations that support kids. If the environment is important to you, pick out 1 or 2 organizations in the environment area. Your estate plan can reflect your values. And if we have a bias, we encourage you to give. Giving is good for you.
Right. And what's the best way to give? Like
Yeah.
there's certain types of accounts that are
Yeah,
better
nothing is easy.
versus others. So
Yeah, let's go to the next slide. We talked a little bit about that. You want to add anything else to this?
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Examine what you're currently doing, set those SMART goals.
By the way, in the clients that you and Lori have, do you lose clients every do turnover clients on a regular basis, or do clients stay with you for an extended period of time?
We have a mix because we have some clients who come to us and they say, "Hey, I have this, current financial situation that I'm in,
And they just want to get that financial situation under control."
Yeah, and I just need to rein it in. I need some of my goals,
Yeah.
help.
But under your AUM, assets under management clients, that you have an ongoing relationship with, every year you can measure that progress, correct?
Yep. Yeah, we can track how they're doing, how, their investments are growing, how their savings have been. If we had a savings plan for them, are they meeting those savings goals? Yeah, so we can be measuring each year.
Yeah, if you're doing it yourself, put together a net worth statement once a year, because that will tell you where you are, because some things are going to go up, some things are going to go down. And then, and it's on paper. You're not subject to the news and the media. You're looking at your own situation. And very few people put together a net worth statement for themselves. And if you do that on an annual basis, you kind of see your own progress.
Yeah, it's a good idea just to see everything in one place, see all your assets in one place.
Let's go to the next slide.
Okay, so this is going to talk more about the financial planning process. I don't know if we need to like read off each of these because our
Yeah,
next
it's it's kind of we talked about, but you first got to understand the goals and the financial circumstances. Every one of us are a little bit different, you
yeah,
know. The one thing I really like about fee only advisors is that if I come into a situation and I go, I don't know whether or not I need to take a lump sum out of my retirement or to take the cash flow. You guys can look and crunch the numbers under both situation and help me come to a decision. But the decision would be mine, but you would be assisting me. Is that kind of correct?
yeah, and I think that is a adds to that peace of mind and comfort that we were talking about earlier because we have such powerful tools to use to do financial planning that people can come to us with those complex scenarios that it really can't be done on a piece of paper. It can't be
Yeah.
done.
It's the
Should I
what ifs,
these
and
are
it
real.
assures you that because there's no course of action that's 100% pro. There's always a course of action that has some negatives. And this way you get to look at all of them before you make that financial decision.
Right, totally.
And, uh, and also the monitoring. I think it's, and you update on an annual basis. It's so important. Let's
Yeah.
go to the next.
So I think we've covered some of this stuff like already in
Yeah.
the presentation, but yeah, establishing a relationship with a professional is one of the most important things to start is understanding who they are. Do they work well with you? Do you like their personality? Do you trust them? Do you think they're competent in what the advice they're giving to you? Those are all really important things. And then like bringing that ask first form to your first engagement to understand how are they being compensated? What level of experience do they have?
Or,
Uh,
or are they willing to talk about the conflicts that are present? Let's say I come to you and I'm thinking about selling a home. And if I sell the home, you would manage my money and you would earn more.
yep.
So that's a conflict.
It is a conflict. So yeah, it's something that you want to make sure your advisor is approaching those topics and willing to talk about those topics. And we work in a fiduciary capacity, so we are working people's best interest. But yeah, those conflicts do exist. If you were to sell your house and we put it in an investment account, then we can charge a fee on that.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you establish that trust and you have those conversations.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go to the next slide.
So this is what we do in our, first like onboarding and discovery calls with a client is, we really want to understand everything about them, about their background, their family history, their relationship to money, their, investment philosophies that they've, built up over the years, their goals that they have, retirement, funding for kids, charitable goals, what hobbies do they have, building out that assets and liabilities, that net worth statement that Peter was mentioning. And then I think the biggest one we ask people is, well, why do you want to meet with a planner? That uncovers usually a lot because we do our own like level of marketing to reach out to people, but really it's them coming to us. And so there's always some reason that's like pulling you toward getting a financial plan. And that's the thing we want to uncover and focus on.
Yeah. The when you talk about money history and family, we all have money scripts. My family, we never talked about money. My mother didn't even know what my father, I'm saying it, what my father had as far as a net worth arc was concerned. They never discussed money. Um, I, the reason I don't manage my own money, but the decision to go to a fee only advisor was that in 2010, the market dramatically took a dive, and in my portfolio was all with financial institutions. So my portfolio took a 70% hit
Wow.
that one year. And so I said, you know, I don't have the time and the interest, and I wasn't diversified, and I need somebody else to manage my money. And so far, I've done so much better having an outside professional handle my money. But it's kind of the reason for having a planner, and that was the loss of money. I've heard divorce, a lot of times a death, retirement, so these are some of the reasons people use to go to a fee-only advisor.
Hopefully on the retirement topic, people are coming to us before they make that decision to retire. Sometimes we're meeting with people, they say, "Hey, I retired last week. Now what? Now what does my retirement plan look like?" And that's now we're working within the constraint of there's no more income,
Yeah.
or they need to do part-time work or something. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And many individuals just have a problem putting a net worth statement together, So gosh, you need one of those. Let's go to the next slide. Tough one,
Yeah, it's really important.
Yeah. And you need to make them specific.
Yeah, specific, actionable, measurable, timely. I think those are all part of the SMART goals. But yeah, goal formation is one of the most important parts of financial planning, because that's really what it's all about, is like, how do you want to live your life and what do you really want to fund? And that's the core of financial planning. So this is a huge step in the financial planning process that a financial advisor should be helping you, and helping you identify and select goals.
I had 3 stocks in my portfolio when I went to the financial advisor, and the financial advisor asked me, why did you purchase these stocks? And it was like 25 years ago. And I said, I have no idea. I thought they would make money.
Yeah.
And all 3 of them were underwater. And he says, what? So why do you still have them? And I thought about it for a little bit. And I says, if I sold them, then I've lost money. And if I keep them, there's a hope that they would gain money. And he basically explained, you need to sell these and get into a diversified portfolio. There's so much, there's so much psychology involved in the stuff when you're managing your own money.
And I mean, I think an important part you're hitting on in there is the why. And that's really what this step is, there's you're attached to these stocks, but it's really why, like what purpose are these stocks?
Oh, I didn't want to admit that I was a lousy stock picker.
Yeah.
So let's go to step 3. Yeah, you got to kind of analyze number crunching. If your financial advisor doesn't know an Excel spreadsheet, leave them.
I agree.
You got to be a number cruncher.
I'm biased because I love Excel, but I would agree. But yeah, this step is, as you can tell, this is all, in somewhat sequential order. But after we've understood, who the person is and about their background, and then we understand like what things they want out of, their financial life, what goals they have, then you can start assessing and analyzing, okay, how do we get from where you are right now to where you want to be? And that's where the number crunching comes in, because we have planning software to help us. We have spreadsheets to help make these decisions. And then you have to weigh it against, it's not just the technical decision, but the person's psychology and preferences. Some things that are technically on paper the best thing to do, like maybe, instead of pay off the mortgage, stay invested. Maybe that's behaviorally not the thing that somebody wants to do. Maybe they actually want to be debt free, and that's a really important thing to them. So there's weighing the analyzation versus the psychology and
Yeah.
personal preference.
Yeah. That's why I love this field. You know, when you start talking to people about money, it's near and dear to them. Step 4.
Yeah, so this is where after we've done the analysis, then we're developing and presenting that financial planning recommendation to the clients.
So
So
this is the stage where you go, okay, asset allocation, this much in fixed income, this much in equities, depending on their goals and objectives and their cash flow needs, etc.
yeah, and so we're putting together all those recommendations beyond even just investments. Investments is the one piece, but it could be a tax planning recommendation, it could be an insurance recommendation, and yeah, it's all to further the client's goals.
Yeah. And they can implement them themselves or they can implement them with you.
Yep, and so we'll get into that in the next steps. I think
Step 5.
so. This is when we're sitting down with a client after we've developed these recommendations, and we're physically presenting it to them. And it could be, you're sending it to them over an email, or we're, meeting with them in person to talk about it. But either way, I think something that's really important is after speak with the CFP professional, you should be getting some concrete, you know, list of recommendations, something to be able to take with you from that meeting so that you can then either implement these things yourself, or it's the CFP professional is making you aware that they're going to be the ones implementing these recommendations.
And it's not a 500-page document,
No.
it's something that you can understand,
In, in some cases with our clients, all we're doing is bullet points. Like
Yeah.
we talked about these 4 or 5 really important things,
Yeah.
and here are recommendations for you to go do with these 5 things.
Yeah. Keep it simple, stupid, to narrow things down so it's understandable is the key. And you have to know your stuff in order to narrow it down. Step number 6.
Yes, this is the implementation. So this is like we were just mentioning, who is the one responsible actually for making the implementation of these recommendations.
And if you were to implement them, do you use index funds for this part or ETFs?
Yeah, so if this is an investment recommendation, and let's say we are managing someone's investment portfolio, like we have assets under management, then we are giving the recommendation saying, here are the funds, the ETFs that we recommend that the person be invested in. And if they agree after, we have this conversation, then we would be the ones implementing and making those trades to implement that portfolio.
Okay.
But maybe some other things like insurance, if we give a recommendation on, hey, you don't have enough liability insurance on your homeowner's policy, we're not going to be the one calling the insurance company to say, hey, increase the liability coverage. That's going to be something we recommend to the client for the client to then implement themselves.
Yeah. And you'll help them if they have problems with doing that.
Right. Yeah, we're a phone call or email away.
Yeah. Step 7.
And this is like, yeah, Peter was mentioning earlier, if you're working with us on an ongoing basis, we're, benchmarking and tracking your progress.
What does benchmarking mean? Because people are very confused with this term and why it's important. And one of the first questions I usually get at the workshops and from individuals is, how do I know, Thomas, you're good? What kind of return can you give me?
Yeah. So benchmark in that field is talking about investments, and it's saying, here's an investment allocation. What we can do is figure out, like, let's say you're invested in a bunch of large cap stocks, like really big company stocks. Well, then what is a good way for us to compare how those, large company stocks that you own did to some other investment strategy? And in that sense, we would find a appropriate benchmark. And in that example, it would be the S&P 500. And we could compare, okay, how was the S&P 500 index return versus what you had done with your basket of large stocks? And yeah.
Yeah, just to give you, and the benchmark has to be accurate. what you hear on the news on a regular basis, the S&P 500 return, but that return does not include dividends, reinvestments. So it is what you hear on the news, that quote should be higher on the S&P 500 return. So I'm a big proponent. My bias is towards passive income and index investing. We're going to have some presenters that are active managers, and we can talk about that more. But again, benchmarking is so important, comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges, so you know how you do. You can't just look at your return and say, oh, what a fantastic return, unless you know what a risk-free return was.
Right. Yeah. And you want to compare similar types of assets. Like you don't want to compare a bond portfolio that you have to, the S&P 500, which is a 100% stock portfolio, and say, oh, wow, my bond portfolio did so much worse than if I had been in the S&P 500. Those things are just entirely different risk profiles. So
and the thing of it is that as we age, our goals change. I'm 75 years old today. My goal is to travel, and I want to see the world. And so that's my goal. I'm hoping if I get to be 90, my 90, it's not going to be the same goal. My goal is going to change. And so you need to reassess those as you go forward. Some people want to sell their home and buy down. Some individuals want to go into assisted care facilities, independent living. Your goals change and the money issues change.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where you should be asking this, advisor that you're working with, how frequent am I meeting with you to talk about these goals? Is it twice a year? Is it, every time I have a financial issue come up? What is the appropriate frequency to be revisiting these goals?
Okay. We have less than 4 minutes. Let's go to the next slide. Well, how many slides do we have left here?
I think that's the presentation.
Hey, we got it. By the way, Thomas, great presentation today. I love it.